much as I don't enjoy acting. So I think that, you know, the way I kid myself about it is it's like if I've already got a job if I'm directing, so why do it?
You can't make a movie, you know, unless it's a cartoon. You can't make a movie without actors and directors, and I think that there has been a kind of mass selling of their soul.
It's, you know, so many times if you come, you know, like here, if you feel like you're hustling for a movie.
Something strange is going on with Sean Penn, and it's got Hollywood whispering again.
You know, young people went under that incredibly horrifying situation and the sound of it, and what happens when those that caliber of weapon.
The man who's been everything from a rebel actor to a political firestorm is suddenly back in the headlines, but not for the reasons you'd expect.
I was asked, did I think that he would let himself be taken alive? My impression was that he would not.
Whatever's happening behind the scenes, it's raising more eyebrows than applause. And some say it's about to expose a side of Sean Penn the public was never meant to see. So let's get into the details. Once upon a time in Mexico, one of the world's most dangerous men, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, pulled off the impossible. He vanished, not into hiding, not into a disguise, but straight into the earth through a mile-long tunnel equipped with lighting, ventilation, and a motorcycle on rails. It was the kind of escape that felt scripted. And when the world's most wanted criminal disappeared, who somehow found him? Not the DEA, not the CIA, not even the Mexican military, but Sean Penn, a Hollywood actor with a reputation for chasing chaos like it's his next big role.
And I was shocked.
Shocked.
Yeah, I was shocked.
You expected him to be.
I didn't expect him to be captured this quickly.
According to the official narrative, Penn went down to the Mexican jungle for a Rolling Stone interview. A journalistic mission, they said. But insiders claim Penn had something else in mind. He wasn't there to expose El Chapo. He was there to become him. Rumor has it, Penn was chasing the rights to El Chapo's life story, hoping to turn it into a multi-million-dollar Hollywood project, with himself starring as the Lord. Mexican authorities later said Penn's meeting almost sabotaged El Chapo's capture, that his presence tipped off the cartel and caused chaos in the operation. And when Penn denied it, nobody really believed him, because by then, Penn wasn't acting like a journalist. He was acting like he wanted to join the movie El Chapo was already living.
He had information that you believe would do great damage to reputations at the highest levels of the Mexican society. Yes?
Yes, I think that's part of it.
It wasn't journalism. It was obsession. And maybe, just maybe, El Chapo saw it too. You can tell a lot about a man by who he hangs out with. And Sean Penn's contact list reads like a who's who of chaos. From El Chapo to Venezuelan dictator Hugo Chavez, Penn's friendships always seem to orbit power, danger, and controversy. But that's just scratching the surface.
The Mexican government, they were clearly very humiliated by the notion that someone found him before they did. Well, nobody found him.
He spent nights drinking with Hunter S. Thompson, the outlaw journalist who shot his typewriter for fun. He once lived next door to Marlon Brando, whose temper was legendary. He clashed and partied with Jack Nicholson, the man who turned Hollywood rebellion into a religion. And let's not forget Charles Bukowski, the drunk poet of Los Angeles, whose favorite pastimes were bar fights and broken hearts.
Nobody wants to hurt Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I mean,
everybody loves Jack.
It's impossible not to.
Penn didn't just admire these men, he worshipped them. They were his blueprint. He wanted to be the kind of artist who lived on the edge, the kind who bled for his art and scared the establishment while doing it. But here's the twist. While most of his idols died for their chaos, Penn learned how to monetize his. Because deep down, Sean Penn doesn't just crave respect, he craves danger. And every scandal, every arrest, every politically loaded photo op, it's just another performance in his lifelong pursuit of being the real-life anti-hero Hollywood could never contain. To understand Sean Penn's obsession with rebellion, you've got to rewind to the start, Santa Monica, 1960. He wasn't some street kid fighting for survival. He was born into show business. His dad, Leo Penn, was a blacklisted director. His mom, Eileen Ryan, an actress. Sean grew up surrounded by cameras, scripts, and second chances, but all he ever wanted was to prove he didn't need any of it. As a teenager, Penn had one mission: to burn down every expectation people had of a Hollywood kid. He was kicked out of schools, picked fights, and built a reputation for having a temper that could melt film reels. By the time he got his first acting gig on Little House House on the Prairie, he wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing defiance.
I think of it at its best as an instinctual craft. It is a craft. Certainly film acting is a craft, but for me the process was maybe a little too personal.
And when his breakout role came in Taps, 1981, starring alongside a babyface Tom Cruise, Penn wasn't the pretty boy. He was the volatile one. The directors saw it, the cast felt it, and the audience believed it. He wasn't pretending to be angry. He was angry. Angry at the system, angry at Hollywood's phoniness, and maybe angry that he'd never really escaped the shadow of his father's blacklist past. Then came 1982. One role, Jeff Spicoli in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and Sean Penn went from that intense kid to the face of teenage rebellion. But here's what most people don't know. Penn took that goofy surfer character and turned it into a psychological experiment.
When I read it, I immediately heard somebody I knew. Yeah, there's a fella that grew up in the neighborhood where I grew up.
This is in Malibu?
While other actors just memorized lines, Penn became Spicoli. He spent weeks living like a real surfer in Malibu, smoked the real stuff, and refused to break character even off camera. When the director called him Sean, he didn't respond, because in his head, Sean Penn didn't exist anymore. Only Spicoli did. The result? Hollywood's first stoner philosopher. Spicoli wasn't just a clown. He was a symbol of youthful defiance. He mocked authority, made stupidity look profound, and forced America to see how freedom can look like chaos.
And it was the guy that I based entirely the character on. And let me tell you that Jeff Spicoli is alive and well and has very healthy children.
But here's the irony. That character became a curse. After Fast Times, Penn swore he'd never play another goofy role again. He wanted respect, not laughter. And so began his transformation, from comic cult hero to Hollywood's angriest genius. They say method actors lose themselves in their roles. In Penn's case, the roles lost themselves in him. Sean Penn was done being the stoner kid. He wanted respect, and he wanted it by force. After Fast Times, Penn swerved hard into darkness. His next film, Bad Boys, 1983, wasn't some popcorn flick. It was raw, brutal, and uncomfortably real. Penn went full method, locking himself in isolation, studying real inmates, and channeling every ounce of anger he had into the role. Critics saw it, that spark of danger, the sense that this wasn't a performance, it was an exorcism.
I won't do the audition because if I get the film, when it comes time to do that scene, I will have already done it. And I said to him, "Give a monologue." He said, "You know, Rick, there's a couple things I really hate about this."
And once he tasted that reaction, there was no going back. Penn became addicted, not to fame, but to intensity. In The Falcon and the Snowman, he took things even further. Playing a real-life dealer and Soviet spy, Penn didn't just act like Andrew Dalton Lee. He hired the actual man as his assistant. That wasn't dedication. That was obsession. It was like Penn couldn't separate art from reality anymore. And that line would only get blurrier when love and chaos collided. Then came At Close Range, a powerhouse performance. But what happened off camera would define him far more than the film ever could. Because this is where she enters the story. Madonna. When Penn met Madonna, it wasn't some Hollywood love story. It was gasoline meeting fire. Two global icons at the height of their fame, both impulsive, volatile, and allergic to control. The chemistry was nuclear, the kind that either burns bright or burns everything down.
But you know, I've since that one evening, I've kind of gotten to know her a little bit better, and I have a completely different impression of her. I think she's a very nice, very smart young woman.
I'm sure she is.
Their 1985 Malibu wedding was straight out of a fever dream. Helicopters swarmed overhead like vultures, tabloids fought for shots, and legend has it Penn actually grabbed his pistol and fired warning shots into the air. Some called it self-defense. Others called it madness. Either way, the myth stuck. Sean Penn, the actor who shoots at the press. From that point on, their marriage became a live-action war movie. Every tabloid headline, every red carpet glare, every explosive rumor, all fueled by two people who didn't know how to turn off the drama. On-screen, Penn's career was spiraling. Shanghai Surprise, the movie he made with Madonna, was a disaster of biblical proportions. Critics shredded it. The Razzie Awards crowned him worst actor. For a man obsessed with respect, it was the ultimate humiliation. So he lashed out, not in interviews, not in essays, but with his fists.
Do you still enjoy acting?
No.
The paparazzi became his personal enemy. They followed him everywhere, and he fought back every single time. Fistfights in hotel lobbies, cameras smashed to pieces, a photographer dangling off a balcony. It wasn't Hollywood anymore. It was combat. And Madonna? She was right there in the middle of it all. Their love was toxic, magnetic, and impossible to ignore. She filed for divorce twice, once during the chaos, and again after a series of rumored violent confrontations that tabloids spun into legend. Allegations of abuse surfaced, headlines exploded, and Penn's reputation hit rock bottom. Years later, Madonna would publicly deny those claims, but by then, the damage was done. The bad boy label wasn't a phase anymore, it was his brand.
I don't enjoy acting, so I think that, you know, the way I kid myself about it is it's like I've already got a job if I'm directing, so why do it?
Then came Colors 1988. The irony was thick. Penn, freshly out of jail for punching a paparazzo, now playing a cop in one of the most violent urban dramas of the decade. Directed by Dennis Hopper, the film dove deep into gang culture, racial tension, and corruption. Basically, everything Penn's real life already resembled.
Got it.
On set, he was electric, unpredictable, dangerous. The performance felt less like acting and more like therapy. A man trying to control his demons by showing them to the world. And then, in the most unexpected twist of all, Penn decided to lean into the joke. He went on Saturday Night Live, yes, SNL, and mocked his own violent temper. For the first time, audiences laughed with him instead of at him.
That's the day you'll see my smiling face on the cover of the New York Post. Until then, you'll be seeing this.
For a fleeting moment, the world thought maybe he'd changed. Spoiler, he hadn't. By the end of the 80s, Penn's career was chaos. Some hits, casualties of war at close range, some disasters, were no angels, and a mountain of tabloid wreckage. But underneath all that noise, something important was happening. Sean Penn was evolving. The rage was still there, but now it had purpose. The 1990s hit like a creative rebirth. He kicked off the decade with State of Grace, a violent, moody crime drama that mirrored his own internal war. Then he stepped behind the camera for the first time with The Indian Runner, his directorial debut, based on a Bruce Springsteen song. Critics didn't just like it, they respected it. Suddenly, Sean Penn wasn't just Hollywood's angry problem child. He was a filmmaker, one who actually had something to say.
You can't make a movie, you know, unless it's a cartoon. You can't make a movie without actors and directors, and I think that there has been a kind of mass selling of their soul.
But it was Carlito's Way, 1993, that redefined him. Starring alongside Al Pacino, Penn transformed himself into David Kleinfeld, a sleazy, coked-out lawyer with a perm so ridiculous it was genius. Word is, he showed up on set like that without telling anyone, and the studio hated it. But De Palma backed him, and it ended up being one of the most unforgettable performances of the decade. By then, Sean Penn had stopped pretending to be the rebel. He was the rebel. And then came the movie that silenced everyone, Dead Man Walking, 1995. Playing a death row inmate seeking redemption, Penn delivered the performance of his life. The man who once terrorized photographers was now forcing America to confront forgiveness, morality, and death itself. He spent months interviewing real prisoners, absorbing their stories, their pain, their fear, and poured all of it onto the screen. The result was raw, haunting, and Oscar-nominated.
Being a movie lover, I guess I've always wanted to believe that the Academy somehow represented what films at best can celebrate. Contacted them with an offer from President Zelensky shortly after the invasion to speak to everyone watching their award show that year.
It was proof that Sean Penn wasn't just a Hollywood bad boy anymore. He was an artist, the kind who could make beauty out of brutality. That same year, he directed The Crossing Guard, with Jack Nicholson delivering one of his most emotionally devastating roles. Critics praised it. Hollywood began whispering about Penn not as the angry rebel, but as the next Scorsese. And yet, even as he rebuilt his image, one truth never changed. Sean Penn's chaos was never an act. It was his fuel. And right when it seemed like he'd finally found balance, he fell in love again. In 1996, he married actress Robin Wright. The two had a stormy on-again, off-again relationship, but for a while it looked like Sean Penn had finally found peace, or at least his version of it. Then came 1997, and everything shifted again. The late 90s were pure fire for Sean Penn, maybe the most impressive stretch of his entire career. 1997 in particular was stacked. He kicked it off with She's So Lovely, a wild, unpredictable drama where Penn played a man spiraling into madness and magic, the kind of chaotic energy only he could pull off. The performance earned him a Best Actor award at Cannes, and critics called it one of his most electrifying roles ever.
I just want to know who did this to you. I know you love me, and I know.
Then came Oliver Stone's U-Turn, where Penn delivered a darkly funny, desperate performance that fit right into Stone's twisted vision of small-town hell. That same year, he popped up in David Fincher's The Game, holding his own alongside Michael Douglas in one of Fincher's most underrated thrillers. By 1998, Penn was unstoppable. Hurly-burly had him playing yet another morally bankrupt sleazeball dripping with ego and insecurity, while The Thin Red Line took him straight into cinematic history. The World War II epic, directed by the reclusive Terrence Malick, who hadn't made a film in decades, was stacked with stars, yet somehow Penn still stood out. Rumor has it he wanted the role so badly he offered to work for free. All he asked was to know where to show up. That's how much he worshipped Malick.
It's, you know, so many times if you come, you know, like here, you feel like you're hustling for a movie.
Then came Sweet and Lowdown, closing out the decade with yet another transformation, this time as a 1930s jazz guitarist in a Woody Allen film. The role earned him his second Oscar nomination, and once again, Penn went all in. He spent months living with a jazz guitarist, studying every finger movement, even though, by his own admission, he could never actually make the guitar sound good.
It's that there is no such thing as best in acting, and that's proven by these great actors that I was nominated with.
What's wild is that Woody Allen didn't even direct him much. He had no clue what Penn's voice or vibe would be until the cameras rolled. And when Sean started doing this bizarre, half-goofy, half-genius performance, Allen just rolled with it. It worked. It always worked. By the time the new millennium hit, Sean Penn was no longer just Hollywood's bad boy. He was a certified powerhouse, and he wasn't slowing down. In 2001, he directed The Pledge, reuniting with Jack Nicholson for a haunting psychological thriller that premiered to high praise at Cannes. Then came one of his most talked about performances ever, I Am Sam. Playing a mentally disabled father fighting to keep custody of his young daughter, a pint-sized Dakota Fanning, Penn threw himself into the role completely. He spent time at art centers with adults who had intellectual disabilities, learning how they spoke, moved, and interacted. He even cast some of them in the film as his on-screen friends. The performance divided critics but earned Penn yet another Oscar nomination, and proved that no matter how much controversy followed him, the man could still disappear into any character he touched. And you know what? I'm okay with Sean Penn going full Tropic Thunder in I Am Sam. Sure, it's a bit much at times, but there's no denying he threw himself into that role with genuine heart. The film's loaded with soulful Beatles covers, handheld camera work, and enough emotional weight to make you forget that, yeah, it was technically desperate Oscar bait, but good Oscar bait. The kind that still gets you teary-eyed.
That was one of the movies I had the best time on. A really great group of people. The director, Jesse Nelson, and Michelle Pfeiffer. We really had, it was a very good spirit on that set.
Then things took a sharp turn. Around this time, Penn went from movie star to political firebrand, one of the first major Hollywood names to publicly call out President George W. Bush. Now, that might not sound like a big deal today, but back then, right after 9/11, it was like career Everyone was waving flags and preaching unity, and here comes Sean Penn saying, Bush is a war criminal. And he wasn't wrong about Iraq. He was just way ahead of the outrage curve.
I don't know how you talk about pronouns when babies are getting...
But controversy didn't kill his career. In fact, it somehow made him hotter. Because then came Mystic River. Clint Eastwood's grim masterpiece turned Penn's reputation around and earned him his first Oscar for Best Actor. His performance as a grieving father whose daughter is brutally remains one of the most gut-wrenching pieces of acting ever put on film. That scene, you know the one, where he breaks down screaming, "Is that my daughter in there?" as cops hold him back, is pure, raw human agony. You feel every second of it. That same year, he starred in 21 Grams, another emotional sledgehammer about grief, guilt, and fate. Two performances back-to-back that proved Penn wasn't just a Hollywood rebel. He was a once-in-a-generation actor. Then came the activism era, the one that blurred the line between humanitarian and headline. Penn traveled to Iraq, claiming he wanted to see the truth for himself. His intentions may have been pure, but his public image, not so much. Because soon after, Team America, World Police dropped, and the creators of South Park turned Sean Penn into a literal puppet punchline.
I needed to come here and see a smile,
see a street, smell the smells.
They roasted him mercilessly, portraying him as a self-righteous, clueless celebrity activist. And of course, Penn didn't exactly laugh it off. He fired back with an open letter to Trey Parker and Matt Stone, scolding them for being politically irresponsible. Classic Penn, too serious to take a joke, too proud to let it slide. After that, his film choices got complicated. He gravitated toward heavy intellectual projects that looked prestigious on paper but landed flat on screen. The Assassination of Richard Nixon, 2004, The Interpreter, 2005, and All the King's Men, 2006, all had potential, all fell short. It was like Penn was chasing greatness, but the spark was fading. The wild thing? Even when his movies bombed, Sean Penn never stopped being fascinating, because half the time, the drama off-screen was more intense than anything he was doing in front of the camera. During this lukewarm stretch in his film career, Penn's most notable screen moment was a bizarre voice performance in the English dub of Persepolis, 2007. Yeah, not exactly a career highlight. But instead of chasing hits, Sean shifted gears and threw himself into something real: disaster relief.
I think that in talking to the other people that were there, people who have more disaster, let's say, experience than I do, this is the most complicated and most devastating one that anyone has ever seen.
After Hurricane Katrina, while most celebrities were posting statements, Sean Penn was literally on a boat. His own boat, pulling stranded people from floodwaters in New Orleans. Say what you want about the guy, but that's not performative. That's action. Sure, he brought a camera crew with him, but come on. The man was knee-deep in toxic water hauling survivors to safety. You can't fake that kind of commitment. And Penn didn't stop there. He popped up everywhere: Iran, Cuba, Venezuela, as a self-declared celebrity journalist. Love him or hate him, the guy actually shows up where most Hollywood activists wouldn't dare to go. But then came the awkward part: his friendship with Hugo Chavez. Suddenly, his image as the brave, globe-trotting humanitarian started to look a little politically messy.
I didn't come here to criticize any government or any president, but I will say is this. I find it personally baffling.
Then 2007 hit, and Sean Penn finally found his groove again, not in front of the camera, but behind it. He directed Into the Wild, a haunting, breathtaking film about freedom, isolation, and self-discovery. You could feel Penn's fingerprints on every frame: the pacing, the emotion, the brutal honesty. And the soundtrack, courtesy of his friend Eddie Vedder, pure magic. Just a year later, Penn was back on screen, transformed again. In Milk, 2008, he played real-life gay rights icon Harvey Milk with stunning tenderness and accuracy. Penn studied hours of documentary footage, nailed every gesture, every tone, even started his mornings listening to It's Raining Men just to stay in character.
He hit the CD player, queued up, and just as we'd see the Castro, It's Raining Men would be playing. It was time for another day of work on Milk.
The result? A career-defining performance that earned him his second Oscar. And yeah, a makeout scene with James Franco. But let's be real, at this point, who in Hollywood hasn't kissed James Franco? The next decade didn't exactly start off like a fairy tale for Sean Penn, more like a meltdown in slow motion. First came his explosive divorce from Robin Wright, then yet another ugly run-in with the paparazzi that landed him straight in anger management.
When the movie was finished, my son was upset with me for kissing James Franco, and my daughter was upset with me.
And while most actors would have taken a breather after that kind of chaos, Sean did something totally on brand. He jumped headfirst into another disaster zone, literally. When the 2010 Haiti earthquake hit, Penn was there pulling bodies, delivering aid, and making headlines as Hollywood's self-appointed humanitarian-in-chief. Credit where it's due, the guy shows up. But the internet never lets anyone live in peace. And soon a meme went viral saying Sean Penn looks like all three stooges rolled into one. Brutal, mean, but kind of funny. Still, if there's one thing more reliable than Sean Penn's temper, it's his mouth. In 2010, he once again managed to turn good press into bad PR after defending his bestie, Venezuelan president/dictator Hugo Chavez. When journalists dared to call Chavez a dictator, Penn snapped back saying those journalists should be jailed, which ironically is something a dictator would say.
The traffic in I'm not celebrating this as a good policy, but he was giving away
oil to the people. They owned it just like he did.
It was the perfect preview of what came next. His bizarre, universally roasted novel, Bob Honey Who Just Do Stuff. Yes, that's the real title. It's supposedly about a hitman and somehow a satirical critique of the Trump era. But critics called it unreadable. And honestly, everyone believed them. Even Penn admitted he likes writing more than acting, which might explain a lot. After that literary detour, he popped up in Fair Game, a forgettable political thriller, before reuniting with Terrence Malick for The Tree of Life. The movie's visually stunning, packed with whispers, existential dread, and random dinosaurs. Brad Pitt's brooding. The universe is expanding, and somewhere in there, Sean Penn looks confused. He later said the movie's structure robbed it of emotion. The dinosaurs respectfully disagreed. Then came This Must Be the Place, where Penn plays a washed-up goth rock star hunting a Nazi. Sounds wild, right? Yeah, it's wild and weirdly boring. The movie just never connects, kind of like Penn's social media strategy. But to his credit, Penn didn't disappear into luxury rehab or canned exile. He kept up his humanitarian hustle, showing up in flooded areas of Pakistan with aid supplies, and even teaming up with Kid Rock to make a Unity PSA called Americans. Let's just say, Unity did not follow.
I cannot, given my self-claimed fertile imagination, I cannot conceive of any reason.
By 2013, Penn was back in gangster mode as Mickey Cohen in Gangster Squad. Generic script, flashy suits, and lots of machine guns, but Penn chewed the scenery like he was auditioning for Scarface 2. He even popped up in The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, a tiny cameo, but he somehow stole the whole movie. And then came the midlife crisis phase, The Gunman. Sean Penn as an aging action hero trying to pull a Liam Neeson. It flopped harder than his book sales. But hey, at least his voice role as the angry, grunting bird in the Angry Birds movie proved he can still laugh at himself. Unfortunately, that sense of humor didn't make it into his next directorial disaster, The Last Face. Critics called it tone-deaf, pretentious, and an ego trip in slow motion. Basically the movie version of a Sean Penn interview. Then came the El Chapo era, the moment Sean Penn officially stopped being just a Hollywood bad boy and became something out of a CIA fever dream.
Nobody found him before they did. We're not smarter than the DEA or the Mexican intelligence. We had a contact upon which we were able to facilitate an invitation.
It's 2015. Instead of doing another Oscar bait drama or brooding in Malibu, Penn decides to do the unthinkable. Interview one of the most dangerous men on earth, Mexican Lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. No government clearance, no security detail. Just Sean Penn, a few of Oliver Stone's producers, and Mexican actress Kate Del Castillo sneaking into the jungle like it's a deleted scene from Narcos. The documentary. For 7 surreal hours, this Oscar-winning actor sat face-to-face with a real-life mass drinking beers, eating tacos, and talking about dreams. Penn later said meeting El Chapo felt like meeting Scarface. He even insisted on taking a handshake photo, but with no smiles because, you know, this guy people. The plan was to do a second, deeper interview, but all they managed was a blurry, over-the-phone video Q&A where Penn asked the hard-hitting question, "Do you dream?" Seriously, that was the question.
They wanted to encourage the cartel to put you in their crosshairs.
Yes.
Are you fearful for your life?
No.
Not long after their meeting, El Chapo was captured, and suddenly, everyone thought Sean Penn was some kind of secret DEA informant. Penn denied it, of course, saying he had nothing to do with the arrest, just that the world completely missed the point. He claimed the article was supposed to be about policy reform, but instead, everyone focused on, well, Sean Penn being an idiot in the jungle. He later called the whole thing a failure. No argument there. Fast forward to 2018, and Sean Penn looks like Hollywood's last rebel finally ran out of adrenaline. He shows up on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert looking half dead and half enlightened. Eyes heavy, voice dragging, cigarette in hand. On live TV, no less. Colbert's trying to keep the interview moving, but Penn's sitting there chain-smoking, slurring his words, saying he's lost his passion for acting. It was awkward, hypnotic, and deeply Penn. Nobody could tell if he was trolling, medicated, or just done pretending. Maybe all three.
You know, young people went under that incredibly horrifying situation and the sound of it and what happens when those that caliber of weapon.
But here's the thing. Sean Penn doesn't fade quietly. He self-destructs loudly. He's one of the only actors alive who can manage to piss off both sides of the political aisle at the same time. A lifelong far-left activist, Penn somehow alienated his own tribe after going on Bill Maher's podcast to torch woke culture, ranting about societal cannibalism, and calling out the hypocrisy of the hashtag #MeToo era. He even wrote a poem about it, and it's just as weird as you think. There are no men nor women, only movements. Own the day until the movements morph to mayhem. Yeah, that's not Shakespeare. It's more like a midlife crisis set to bongos. But that's Sean Penn. He's always been more interested in provoking than pleasing. So what's a fading movie star with a god complex to do? Simple, move to TV. He made his small screen comeback in The First, a grim sci-fi drama about a mission to Mars. Critics said it was intense, maybe too much. Then came Gaslit 2020, where he played opposite Julia Roberts in a Watergate drama. For a second, it looked like he might be easing back into prestige TV territory.
I could trust whatever he was going to do, I was going to survive. You know, he has my husband and children to account for.
But Penn can't stay out of controversy for long. During his Flag Day press tour, a film he directed and co-starred in with his daughter Dylan, he decided to call unvaccinated people criminals. Just like that, Twitter lost its mind. The film tanked, but the outrage kept him trending. Nepotism? Maybe. Political theater? Definitely. Then came Licorice Pizza. Penn only had one short scene, but the second he showed up, the whole movie tilted on its axis.Is cameo was pure chaos, equal parts hilarious, unhinged, and magnetic. Critics said he stole the movie. But that's not quite right. He didn't steal it, he hijacked it, because that's what Sean Penn does. Whether it's a scene, a cause, or a global crisis, once he shows up, it becomes the Sean Penn Show. Fast forward again. The cameras fade, but the activism gets louder. Penn's no longer just an actor. He's a self-appointed crisis correspondent. Haiti, Venezuela, Ukraine. If there's a global disaster, he's not watching it on CNN. He's in it. And his latest headline grabber? Ukraine. When Russia invaded, Penn didn't just send thoughts and prayers. He flew there, met with President Volodymyr Zelensky, filmed a documentary, and then, in the most on-brand move imaginable, he loaned Zelensky his Oscar. Yes, the Oscar he won for Milk. He literally handed it to Zelensky like some symbolic Excalibur of Hollywood virtue. The gesture was meant to inspire solidarity, but let's be honest, it came off more like performance art. I mean, what's Zelensky supposed to do with it? Display it in a war bunker? Use it as a morale booster between missile strikes? Unless that gold statue's getting melted down for ammo, it's about as useful as a tweet. But hey, at least Penn means well. Say what you want about the man, poet, activist, lunatic, legend. Sean Penn has lived a life that makes Scarface look like a cautionary tale. He's done time in jail, directed Jack Nicholson, befriended dictators, confronted lords, and turned his rage into religion. For 40 years, he's been Hollywood's angry conscience, the guy who screams when everyone else whispers. Most celebrities hide behind PR teams. Penn walks straight into hurricanes, literal ones. He's been spotted rescuing flood victims in New Orleans, carrying supplies through earthquake rubble in Haiti, and storming disaster zones while other A-listers are tweeting from their infinity pools. You can roll your eyes, and plenty do, but at least he shows up. Even Penn admits he's difficult, perfectionist, control freak, argument waiting to happen. It's slowed down his Hollywood career, sure, but at this point he doesn't care. He's said it himself. I don't love acting anymore. He's done playing other people. He's too busy being himself, and that's the most complicated role of all. So if that means writing strange poetry about cancel culture, lighting up on late night TV, or handing out Oscars like party favors, so be it. Sean Penn isn't trying to make sense anymore. He's trying to make noise. The man's pool is heated, his opinions are hotter, and he couldn't care less what anyone thinks. So maybe the answer to what the hell happened to Sean Penn isn't scandal or burnout, it's evolution. He's not a movie star anymore. He's an idea, a walking contradiction, the last relic of an era where actors didn't filter their madness, they weaponized it. Love him or hate him, Sean Penn is exactly what Hollywood created, and exactly what it can't control. The last rebel standing, and he's still lighting matches. That's it for today. See you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.